What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing, man? My name is Ray. People know me as Ray Rob, Raymond, all that good stuff. It's been a minute. Glad everybody's been rocking with me. It's been a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm not even really finna waste any time. Where do I want to? I know where I want to start at. Let's start at the trade that finally happened. So for everybody that doesn't know, I have been a Bears fan since '85. I was 6 years old. Walter Payton, the Bears going to the championship. That was one of the first things that I saw. So I've been with the Bears through thick and thin. And I'm not going to lie. Loyalty in sports is overrated, for real. I mean, there's people that give more loyalty to sports than they do in their relationships in life. But you know what? I'm not even going to really just get off onto another tangent because that's going to take me off of where I'm really trying to go. So I'm just going to break it down. I wanted Deshaun Watson in 2017 and they got Mitchell Trubisky. People try to convince me that Mitchell Trubisky was better than what we just saw when we saw Deshaun Watson, who was the best player on the field the year before when they lost to Alabama, then be the best player on the field when he beat Alabama in the waning seconds in the national championship game. People try to convince me that the Mitchell Trubisky, who was in the same conference, was better than that. And you know what? I didn't believe it. I didn't see it. I'm not gonna act like I was super hip to him, but I mean, he's mobile. He had an arm, but he also, man, he just seemed like he was scared. You know what I'm saying? Like you mobile, got an arm, and I'm not saying coaching didn't contribute to that because he was put in a bad situation with a lame duck coach, but that man was given a championship type defense. And no, you got to grow into it. He actually made the Pro Bowl and everything like that, but he wasn't better than Deshaun Watson because I don't want to get on something where I'm just talking about Mitchell Trubisky. I wanted Deshaun Watson over Mitchell Trubisky. We all know what's happened with Deshaun since then. I'm just saying at that point. The Patrick Mahomes thing, this is the problem with people. This is the problem. I mean, complaining about people at this point, I mean, people aren't going to change. People are set in their ways. And we're allowed to, in this day and age, just have a situation of how we feel is just how we feel. And unless it's somebody in influence or somebody that you look up to or something like that, if they don't agree with you, you're not trying to hear what they got to say. And I just think that's total BS. Nobody saw Patrick Mahomes being the best QB possibly ever. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what, besides his parents and him, nobody like, oh yeah, yep, he one of them ones. Now they might have thought he had outrageous talent. I mean, I know the history of also Texas Tech quarterbacks, with the Graham Harrells and so forth, and they had a lot of quarterbacks that threw for yards. I'm not saying that he wasn't great or he didn't have the possibility, but nobody saw this. So I'm not holding people to that. It's almost like when Michael Jordan came in, like you had the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds. I mean, people still hate on Isaiah Thomas, even though he's the one that broke up all that stuff and kept Michael Jordan away. But it's like after Michael Jordan, everybody kind of changed the rules. It's like, I don't know. People changed the rules to fit the narrative. Because at first, it was the best basketball. You had to win chips. Okay. Michael won 6 when he went to the finals, never lost. And so now it became, instead of just who the best player on merit, it just like the rings. You have to have the rings as well as being great. And I get that. But it's almost like it just went predominantly to rings. And if you don't have rings, anything else you did is just null and void. And then it carried over to football. Because like Dan Marino, he's one of the greatest. He doesn't have any rings, so now it's like he almost gets lost in the sauce. John Elway was one of the greatest talents. Aaron Rodgers gets knocked for having one. Like Tom Brady, Joe Montana. Even when Joe Montana had 4, people still gave Dan Marino that kind of respect in other QBs. Terry Bradshaw has 4, and he deserves all the accolades, but they don't put him up there as the greatest, so it's just really kind of choice. I say all that to say this. I wanted Deshaun Watson. I'm not mad that they didn't pick Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes went to a way better situation. And then Matt Nagy came over, And then I was cool on being a Bears fan because of the mediocrity that we've had over the years. Just tired of it. I mean, they're all right. It's okay if I don't want to be a fan anymore. I mean, I had a good run. And then they brought me in because they picked Justin Fields. I am an Ohio State fan. I am a Justin Fields apologist. I'm also I'm a fan that, we try to be as realistic as we possibly can. I don't go too crazy except for if you don't agree with me. I just like to explain a lot of things because a lot of stuff has context. And we seem to leave out the context depending on who the person and the player, the celebrity is. Justin Fields to me always was dope. I mean, I always felt he held the ball too long. I felt that was his flaw in trying to make things happen. But what he never did, what he rarely did, which was one of my main criticisms, he rarely ran like that. And it was almost like he didn't run because sometimes I saw that when he ran, he'd get hit. And, it was like he almost knew he couldn't risk being out. So he rarely ran in college. I feel like to his detriment sometimes. They did the same thing with CJ. People seem to forget because, they don't forget, they just don't know because they don't do their research. CJ was recruited as a dual threat quarterback. One of his first touchdowns was a 50-yarder run. But he excels in the pocket. And I'm glad CJ came out and was talking about how complex the Ohio State offense is. Basically, it's more complex than some of the offense that he's learning now. Not a bad thing. He was just stating that fact. Justin threw 41 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And everybody that tries to say the receivers that he had, Justin had good receivers. He had the in-between. McLaurin already went to the league. He had, the Johnny Dixon. He had KJ Hill, Benjamin Victor, Austin Mack. Olave was a freshman and then became a sophomore because he wore 17 his first year. And then he got Garrett Wilson his freshman year. CJ, the one who really got the dogs, and also I stand to be corrected. Jackson Smith-Njigba was a freshman as well. And Jameson Williams was there, but they weren't really getting a lot of burn because KJ and Benjamin and Matt were the ones that were ahead of them. And so, in a lot of the concepts that they have a lot of mesh and crossing routes where they go over the middle, where he threw over the middle constantly. And it doesn't seem as if, when I watch the Bears, not saying he didn't make mistakes, but the deck was stacked against him. Matt Nagy, coming from Kansas City, wanted to do the same thing that he saw Andy Reid do with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, and have Patrick Mahomes sit for a year and then take over. The only difference was Kansas City was already very well established. They were a playoff team. That was a QB who was very solid, who had taken a team to multiple NFC Championship games and had playoff runs in Kansas City. We went to the playoffs. So just because you got Andy Dalton and you wanted to keep your word, Andy Dalton, if this was Andy Dalton in Cincinnati, year 1 through 5, okay, yeah, let Justin sit. This is Andy Dalton who got playing time because Dak had that compound fracture on his foot, and Andy Dalton played. He played well, but he didn't deserve to be the starter. And so then you got your rookie QB who you didn't give any rest with the first team. And then when Andy Dalton gets hurt, the first game that you played was almost criminal the way you didn't change protections and you had him going against Cleveland and he got sacked 9 times. Man, that alone could have just taken somebody out. Let me just fast forward. So that first year, you got a lame duck coach who really, even though when you look back at it, he was better throwing the ball with Matt Nagy than he was with Luke Getsy. So Matt Nagy gets fired, which everybody thought he was going to get fired the year before. Sound familiar? And then you bring in Matt Eberflus, who I liked as a coach because I saw what Indianapolis looked like on the defensive end. And then you bring in a guy named Luke Getsy and the offensive staff who is supposed to get the best out of the QB, but the QB that him and Nathaniel Hackett worked with, which is why they got the job, was Aaron Rodgers. And as you can see, they haven't excelled with anybody outside of Aaron Rodgers. They haven't. And so the job of Luke Getsy was supposed to be working and bringing the best out of Justin Fields. But obviously, a first-time play caller, I mean, he had to go through his experience. He didn't do Justin Fields any favors. And when he did do favors, it almost seemed like it was limited. The things that started to work, that worked consistently, besides the New England game when you really saw a complete game, the things that work consistently is like he didn't go to. And so let's talk about the Chicago Bears. So the first year, you got Justin Fields. You have basically, they went 8-8 or 7-9 or something like that. You get rid of Matt Nagy. Then Ryan Poles comes in. Then you gut the team. Basically, if Justin Fields doesn't change his whole, everybody keeps like, Justin Fields had to change up his whole style of play. He's a dual threat quarterback naturally, but like I said, me and my friend Will, my homeboy William, we used to have a argument, not even an argument of why doesn't he get more like Lamar? And when we say that, well, certain QBs, I feel like this with Donovan McNabb. Like, I feel like black QBs feel like they have to prove that they can stay in the pocket no matter what, even if it's to their detriment. Now, you must be able to win from the pocket, but if the pocket is constantly collapsing and it's you or them, if Justin Fields does not change up his whole way that he plays, he's not even in the NFL right now because he'll probably be in a hospital bed. But this man finally just started saying, I got to get out of here because we don't got the receivers. We don't have the talent. They gutted the whole team and they went 3-14. Now, they went 8-8, 7-9 to 3-14. Had the number one pick. Everybody saw that they gutted the team. This man, if he would have played another game, would be the all-time leading rushers for quarterbacks. He was 34 yards short. Not to mention he missed a couple games during that season. Just because he had to survive. And now this narrative, and so it's almost like with him doing that, I agree. He picked up some bad habits. There's some things that he could have done better. But they weren't, when you're not the better team, you don't win those type of games. Like, I've gotten into this thing where I try not to do it because I've been in social media platforms and I argue and debate and, try to come with reason. And some people don't really just seem to listen. There's things that Fields has to do better. We're not denying that, but I don't understand how people don't see the whole scope. His team did not win a game for a whole calendar year. Now, we know the offseason included. They lost 14 straight. They gave up 31 points a game during that stretch. An average of 31 points. They set an NFL record for 14 games of giving up 25 consecutive points. That means that's never been done in history before. The wide receivers that Justin Fields played with, most of them are not even in the league at this point. The running backs, David Montgomery is very good. Khalil Herbert, they can't stay healthy. I mean, that's the league. So you're not a favorite. So what do people do when they're great and they don't have the talent? It's called pressing. You know what happens? The growing pains. You make mistakes. Not defending. You got to get better and clean some of that stuff up. But when you playing for your life and you ain't got help, that's what happens. I keep going back to this. I just saw the collapse by the Philadelphia Eagles. Guess what? You know how many points their defense gave up in the last 7 games? 30 points. You know what the record was for the team that went to the Super Bowl the year before during that time? 1-6. No team, no sweet-ass quarterback is winning if your defense is giving up 30 points a game. What happened? Jalen Hurts start pressing. More turnovers and everything. Doesn't look characteristic. You get banged up more because you're pressing more. For some reason, because the Bears had the number one pick, and so everybody just kind of bypassed that. So essentially, everybody tried to equate this past season for Justin Fields to the same time of Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen in year 3. When in reality, it was year 2 of their journey. So year 2 and Jalen's journey and Josh Allen's journey, whose teams were better, had more talent than Justin Fields. They made the playoffs. And then they got that wide receiver that they needed. So people said, okay, well, first of all, they wanted Bryce Young to come to Chicago. They said Bryce Young was generational. CJ wasn't anything. Or maybe it might have been Will Levis. You know how it fluctuates. You know how this time is. I remember everything around this time last year. Everybody has their opinion. So they get DJ Moore. DJ Moore has his best season. Justin Fields, they had a better season. Towards the end of the season, they started to improve. Now, I said they didn't win in the calendar year. They started 0-4. They were up 28-7 and then lost. He started 16 of 16. Now, anybody else that does that and then their defense collapse, you're not blaming the quarterback. He did have a turnover, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not defending all that, but your defense, there was a period of time in 2022, they led the league in scoring for a month. They averaged 32 points. You know how many points the defense gave up? 37. This is all during that stretch of losing. So then he gets injured, and not to mention, because I know a lot of people will say this sounds like excuses. These are just the facts. The offensive line didn't get healthy till like week 8 or 9. The first half of the season, 3 of the 4 starting defensive backs were in and out the lineup. Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson. Brisker was in and out as well. Tremaine Edmonds was injured. He started rounding into shape towards the middle of the season. Once everybody got healthy, they started to play well. Justin got injured. Tyson Badger came in, and it's unfair. He tried to do what he do, so he did what most of the other QBs from Chicago did. They're able to make those short, quick reads and everything. And it looks good. The completions, 17 for 23 for 105 yards. But guess what? When it was money time, it's a rookie and everything. Same shit. Same stuff. Excuse my language. Same stuff. He couldn't do it. That's not his fault. He's a rookie trying to build. So, and then the defense, who was giving up, as I said, 31 points, dropped the average 10 points down. Well, when you're giving up, instead of 31, now 19 to 20, guess what? There's a larger margin of error that you may have because the defense has your back and you're going to win more games. So they started to gel together. They went 5-4 but they started 0-4. They finished 7-10, which means they went 7-6. That's with a combination of Badgett and also Fields. Not to mention, they had 3 double-digit leads inside of the fourth quarter that they gave up, which was another first in NFL history. Not to say he's not without fault, but I'm just saying with other QBs, when these things happen with QBs that have way more talented teams, you're not blaming the quarterback. But because the Bears had the number 1 pick, everybody, so basically, without saying it, unless Justin Fields flipped the record from 3-14 to 14-3 and made a deep playoff run, they were getting Caleb regardless. And the Bears locker room don't like that. I don't know. There's things that you definitely got to work on, but you can say the coaching was not good. You know why? Because besides the head coach, everybody else is fired. The defensive head coach had to leave and get fired. The whole offensive staff is fired. So, okay, that's something. So they didn't develop that kid right. And he still made greatness out of mincemeat. And now, after this man went through all of that BS, through hell, now the chance, which is the 3rd year where you get to reap the reward and everything like that, you build the team how it should be built, how they actually need it, how Justin can really take off. And Ryan Poles is he's doing a great job. I'm not going to lie. He knows what he's doing, But I don't want to get ahead of myself, but let's just take it back a bit because I feel a certain way about this. So now, after he went through all the hell And when it's time to, all right, get rewarded, when you see young players, okay, well, I went through the tough times and now I bled for the city and everything. Now you want to bring a new kid in. Yeah, now it's the best situation that a rookie QB has ever had. It could have been the best. It would have been the best situation that Fields could have had. And I understand, now they didn't draft him as a quarterback. Nobody said that when Trevor Lawrence was struggling, when they was 2-7. There was not a thought of, well, let's get Trevor Lawrence out of there. It was not his fault. During that time, even with Fields with a worse team, had a better QBR and was playing better than Trevor Lawrence, whose team his second year didn't gut the team when they got a new coaching staff. They built around him and continue to build around him. So I'm not gonna lie, it's business and everything like that. And they said they did right by Justin and everything, but I just think it's foul. That's dirty. I mean, like I said, hell, you should have just tanked. But you couldn't. This is the thing, you couldn't tank. And you couldn't do that because the GM and the coach would not be there. If Fields didn't play good enough, because it's like, yeah, you wanted him to play good enough to up his trade value, but you traded him for a 6th round, so you really didn't do that. You really just kind of used him. And you feel bad about it, so you try to do right about it. But he had to play decent enough for you to be good enough to retain both of y'all jobs and be able to go get Caleb. Because for real, if it would have just went south, it would have just been everybody out. So, Chicago media, I don't follow a lot of them. I didn't even really follow them. Just put up on my timeline because I'm a Bears fan. Y'all, just be careful. Be careful. I say this. I say Drew Brees, San Diego, the Chargers did Drew Brees like they did. All right, let's get Phillip Rivers. And sometimes, the karma may not be, it don't have to be bad. I ain't wishing nothing bad for the Bears, but I'm just saying, hey, people try to play Drew Brees, and he went to the Saints and stabilized them. Phillip Rivers threw for a lot of yards. They never saw the Super Bowl. They had teams that were supposed to get to the Super Bowl. They never saw the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, he's great. Maybe Harbaugh would do it. They have all this talent. They barely sniffing the playoffs. You just need to be careful what you do. Be careful what you do. I'm really fired up about that. So, yeah, I'm not a Bears fan anymore. I'm cool on them. I ain't nobody. I'm somebody to me, But they ain't got to worry, it's not a big deal. But that's just outright foul. And everybody else, they can say whatever they want. Like, all right, cool. Y'all going to, hopefully, listen, man, Caleb will ball out. That's the best case scenario. You got a whole locker room to win over, and y'all don't know. There's no grace period because y'all expected Fields to take a terrible team with bad coaching to make the playoffs and everything. So now a generational talent comes in because obviously I said Fields is not a generational talent. So now y'all laid the foundation for him to hit the ground running, and y'all want to lay back expectations? Hell nah. Nah. No. They need to make the playoffs at minimum. I don't care what happens. They got to make the playoffs. And I hope, I'll get to Pittsburgh and everything next week. But Chicago, they got to do, because this is what y'all wanted. This is the quarterback that y'all wanted and everything, no matter what. So, and he could be the one. It's very feasible. He's dope. The thing with me, man, I'm gonna be real because I'm not sugarcoating shit. I think he's dope. He's in the same offense that Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray were in. All of them were Heisman finalists. Everybody but Jalen won the Heisman. In that same offense, they all looked dope. Spencer Rattler looked pretty good too. But I'm going to keep him to the side. In college, to me, I don't think me watching football with Caleb at his best, he wasn't better than what Kyler Murray did to me. I can't just say what I saw, he definitively was better. And also, now I know things happen, but you don't get passes like USC until they started losing, USC was the prohibitive favorite. The only reason they stopped being the favorite is because they couldn't beat Utah. All they had to do was beat Utah one time, they would have been in the playoffs. The year before. Not this past season, but 2 years ago. He couldn't beat Utah. He was 1-6 against top 25 teams for generational. Now, I ain't talking about like Pat Mahomes that was with Texas Tech. We talking about somebody that was with USC when they had Jordan at it, when they had, like, they were in the top 3, they were in the top 5. And then once he started losing, then the defense is bad. It's not his fault. The defense was bad in Chicago. It was Justin Fields' fault. I'm just saying, and this doesn't have nothing to do with Caleb. Caleb dope. Let's see how it goes. I just had to get that out of my system. Y'all know where I'm at. This is the Ray Rob page, YouTube page. Come rock with me, REIROBB97. I got a lot of things that I want to get off my chest in the coming days, coming weeks. And not even really get stuff out your chest because you know what? For what? But I just want to say how I feel. You know, that's what this is for. Much love to everybody. Be on the lookout and check me out, man. Y'all have a good one.